that. It's the LeBlanc free zone.
Kayle becoming a pretty more standard ban,
right?
Especially because manCloud somewhat specializes in Kayle. The lane pressure is something he definitely wants to get against Bjergsen because Bjergsen gets so many of his kills roaming.
Yep.
And manCloud's strength last split was honestly just his ability to control the lane.
Yeah, absolutely. Always winning it, picking the. Usually he got the last pick too. He'd be left to last, counter the entire composition.
So that was 4 mid lane bans. 3, well, I'd say 2 directly targeted Bjergsen because everybody bans cast.
Yep. To see manCloud not really taking Gragas's too much under his wing. He's played 2 games of it, but has not seen the wins. So they do get the ban out. They don't want it at all. Elise is picked up by TheOddOne. He's already had 2 chances on her with both wins. Yeah,
it's a great champion for TheOddOne, and it's also a good champion for Zuna. Now Zuna's kind of pushed out of his comfort zone. He played Elise 3 times. Of course, he's lost in all of them, but his Olaf was his only win. So aside from that, Zuna, we don't know what he has left. He's tried playing Lee Sin in the past. That did not go well. I really wonder what his jungle pick is going to be.
A new choice for him. Still sticks with the kind of assassin aggression early game.
And that's most likely going towards manCloud. We have seen
good call.
Some Kha'Zix junglers, but that's more of a solo queue, not as a competitive pick. There's a few jungle Kha'Zix that got seen over in the OGN. It has not seen a huge amount of success, though, and it does not fit XDG's play style for the jungler to take that much farm.
It's true. Seeing Bloodwater get his thresh in, it's now up to Team Solomid to figure out what the composition is going to be around here. We saw the only loss that Team Solomid has came from a very passive composition of Nunu Nasus, and they haven't even touched it. They've never gone back to that. So they're sticking with aggression and really wheelhouse strategies.
Yeah, TSM is always at their best when they're able to take control of the game early. Knowing that they have the jungle Elise, and knowing that they're up against a Thresh, they have a lot of options here. If they take a generic Renekton in the top lane, that'll be strong for Dyrus, and then exactly, that's what they should do. They should go for bot lane after this, and then their last 2 picks will be mid and support.
Dyrus is happy. This is the first time he's grabbing up on Renekton. Usually they're seeing that banned out against him, so he'll be able to have some control and safety in that lane.
It's just such a standard pick, and it's interesting because I think Benny and Dyrus are closer in playstyle than many people realize. They're nearly identical. They're the guys that are extremely consistent, reliable. They will always be able to farm. They generally don't come down to the team that early. Occasionally they'll carry the game, but very, very rarely. And, you know, Renekton is just the perfect thing for that matchup because it should allow Dyrus to maybe put a little bit of impact on the Benny.
They're actually the only 2 in North America to try their hand at Warwick. Dyrus having the better result, obviously, but they're definitely widening champion pools from what we've seen. And Benny, we already know, has a pretty great champion pool. Jinx being picked up here for Xmithie, but they do have the Thresh. They have the escape there for some scary play. Yeah,
they're going to need Xmithie to do a whole bunch more. Since they picked the Shen up in the top lane, and it's most likely a mid lane Kha'Zix, their upfront damage is actually fairly low at the moment, which means Xmithie has to get immensely farmed and has to be able to keep himself safe.
See what happens here with the picks. It would be very interesting. Bjergsen has we've seen him on Gragas, LeBlanc, and Zed so far. So this would be completely new for him.
Yeah, Riven is something he has played a whole bunch of, though. There's
absolutely.
There's a dozen or more highlight clips of his solo queue adventures with Riven. That would be right up against Kha'Zix, kind of meet assassin with assassin. That's it. That's going to be a mid lane Riven right there. Heavy AD composition coming out from TSM. Definitely looking to snowball the game a little bit early for them, but definitely just lane power. Everywhere you look in there, Renekton, Caitlyn, and Riven are all just about destroying their lanes. They're trying to shut down the XDG early game.
This is very much so like TSM. A 3rd pick for Leona here within the Spring split for Xpecial. So, like you said, TSM wanting those early lanes, and it's been what's working for them. We'll have to see what XDG can really answer with here.
Yeah, well, they can either pick a different mid laner if they really want to push Zuna into Kha'Zix jungle, or they can just let manCloud have his chances against a Riven. Like, what is he exactly going to be trying to use against this? There's already been so many things that have been banned away from him. You know, Yasuo is not banned, is available, but also is not good against Riven. If he could want to pick that ego later, he's just going to stay away from him.
manCloud's win does come from Kayle, but that is banned out, and it looks like he is forced on to Nidalee for this matchup. So it seems like this may have gone in TSM's way a little bit. XDG kind of had to think about where they wanted their picks.
Well, especially from the laning phase of this game, TSM has an absolute opportunity to just never let XDG get involved. XDG has very weak wave clear early on in the game here. There's a huge opportunity that TSM will just push up all the lanes, try and take multiple early towers, and then just choke XDG out of the game, which would then kind of neutralize the global threat of Benny Shen. That's the fear that XDG is going to be playing against.
All right, well, before the battle gets underway, let's see who you at home chose and think will win to this game. According to LOLesports.com, an incredible 95% of you think that Team Solomid will walk away with the victory and level up to 6-1 on the season.
There's a resounding percentage.
That's pretty
19
big.
of 20 people would have said TSM wins this game. While I do think TSM is a favorite, I do not think it's that big of a gap. I think those are the TSM fans just having a little bit to say about it.
Yeah, the early game is definitely going to tell. We're looking at Benny. He's kind of one of the people to watch today and what he can really bring into this matchup. And on Shen, we've kind of said players won't be able to carry on Shen, but we've
Benny
seen it happen.
Shen.
We've seen it. Benny loves Shen. Balls even will go back and forth to playing on Shen and do tremendous things. So it can still happen. It's a big matchup for him today.
Well, I should probably correct that. Benny does not love Shen. He is just extremely successful on it. He has a very passive play style on Shen, but he is extremely good at avoiding tower dives, which was a big thing back when he played a bunch of Shen in Season 3, and just sustaining the lane until Shen can become that 1v1 duelist. And that's exactly what Benny's going to be wanting to do. Almost everyone on XDG, actually, is going to be looking to outscale their opponents and get past this early game weakness.
So let's take a look at Zuna real quick and Kha'Zix in the jungle. Is that not an easy jungler to pick up, but kind of transition to if you're playing an Elise, if you're playing an Olaf?
Well, I'll get to Kha'Zix in a moment. It is not super strong in the early game and requires him to get ahead.
Well, we'll see what Zuna can do. We are looking for a bit of synergy, more synergy with manCloud this game, I should say, but that kill potential is really with Benny in the top lane. If we look at it, the teams start to spread out. We'll probably see that line of scrimmage coming out here, and we do see that Xpecial is going for the relic instead of the shield that Bloodwater did.
Yeah, so Xpecial going for a little bit of extra gold generation right there. To get back to the jungle Kha'Zix, I think we're going to have a minute to talk about this. It's a very interesting jungle pick because you see a lot of it if you watch someone like Nightblue's stream or someone, or any really high-tier solo queue jungler. Kha'Zix is a terror out there. But it's generally because he does have fairly strong damage when he ganks, and he can clear the jungle relatively quickly. And once he gets ahead, say if he gets his Lizard Elder and a Tiamat, like once he gets to those two items, he is very strong. But his problems are he can't duel other junglers early on in the game, and he requires ganks to get ahead. So therefore, if all TheOddOne is able to do is shadow Zuna, he will take him out of the game. So he's not necessarily a top-tier competitive pick because there's a lot that the other team can counterplay and get away from him in the jungle. And TheOddOne is just the jungler to do it.
Sounds like things are getting a little more difficult. We did see on Zuna's play when he was on Olaf, he was in the enemy's jungle almost all the time, so he may be thwarted off of that for this game. Is going to get a bit of help in, I believe, a lane swap here. So he may actually get a little bit of aggression from WildTurtle and Xpecial.
Yeah, it looks like Xmithie is taking the Jinx to the top lane. A lot of people have done that against Caitlyn, regardless of the turrets being harder to kill, because they're still able to take the next turret down by the time the Caitlyn and the Leona make a rotation anyway.
Right.
There's a couple people trying to do invades. Oh, geez, Zuna, you should have waited to smite that, but he got it.
Xpecial gets out. He's just not even going to put a ward down. He went in to see what's there. We go. He puts the ward down.
Interesting there. The TheOddOne's starting at its red buff, where Zuna started as blue, so they're not necessarily symmetrical starts, but they're more mirrored, actually, when you just look at them anyway.
We can see both top laners kind of going around. Actually, not even Benny, I should say. That's Zuna taking his wolves. Or Dyrus is taking up the wraiths. A quick pause here, but Dyrus is going to go ahead and just kind of utilize most of the jungle that he can, and it may slow down TheOddOne a bit.
Yeah, it's going to be a quick pause for Benny right there. Sorry, you're saying the... What went
It just might slow down TheOddOne a bit coming out of the jungle that Renekton has to eat up his camps.
There's a small chance. The nice thing about the jungle now with the 4 camps is that even if a solo laner wants to take a few, you're generally not clearing fast enough early on in the game to make them all that at once. So at most, it will slow TheOddOne down 5 or 10 seconds as he's running in between camps. I think he's completely all right with that one once we get this back underway.
And we'll be waiting to see what's going on with these guys. Waiting for Benny to hit 6 is going to be a big thing for XDG. It doesn't mean they're going to be big on the early game. As we said before, it's kind of what they need to get going. So maybe we'll have to wait for that on their part. Dyrus, on the other hand, usually is known to continue TSM's kind of confidence within the game and is really kind of a backbone that everybody can get behind if things are going wrong, if Bjergsen isn't carrying, which we almost haven't seen yet.
Yeah, just a consistent farmer.
Right, absolutely.
Dyrus plays PvE a lot of the time. Because you look at his kill participation in games, TSM will have, 10 or 15 kills. Dyrus will be 1, 0, and 1 in the top lane with 343 CS. And you're like, all right, Dyrus, good work. Everyone gives him a high five after the game.
He's like, I don't know what my team was doing in this fight. This was what I was doing. Yeah. I kind of work with my own unit until we need to fight.
Amazing. It's amazing,
but
actually, how Dyrus, how it works for him, because he is such a unique personality in the competitive scene. Just... He clearly knows so much about the game, and I feel like Dyrus has this intuitive sense of how to play top lane, because he's never really played champions that have huge amounts of mechanics, but he always just is able to beat other top laners by just manipulating the wave, going in at the right times, buying the right items to fit the situation, and just playing a very slow game in a sense, but it always works for him.
Some of the top laners back at Worlds were saying, I can't remember if it was Flame or Shy, but they were like, Dyrus impressed me in lane. He did a few things I didn't expect, taught me a few things as well. And these pro players are always learning from each other. We heard Shifter talk earlier about how him and Bjergsen chatted up and, figure out what style of play is the best and then see who can do it better against each other.
Yeah. Speaking of some we haven't seen much of in North America, I do want to talk about Jungle Kha'Zix a little bit more.
Yeah.
Elise is a particularly bad matchup for him, because if he does actually fight Elise and she swaps into spider form, he can't even get an isolated Q. That would normally be his way of trying to kill people early in the jungle. It's a very dangerous pick. Zuna has to really outplay the TheOddOne, otherwise he will fall far behind in this matchup.
Well, we'll have to see if Kha'Zix fits into his comfort zone. So far, the time will not tell us much of anything, but he can get around that jungle just like a jungler. See him come to the top lane here. Dyrus and the TheOddOne, kind of buddy-buddy in this system, as the white is left behind, and the TheOddOne's kind of anticipating.
Yeah, here's the thing. TheOddOne is mirroring Zuna right now. That is his way of shutting him down. Elise will beat out Kha'Zix if he just meets him at every gank path. He's up here because they want to avoid the dive from Dyrus, and because they want to make sure these turrets don't actually get outpushed, since TSM decided to go with the bottom lane, which is weaker.
Yeah, Zuna can't really get to the turret, so he won't be able to put too much damage on it. TheOddOne will be able to soak up this experience. The red and the blue buff going a little bit to waste here for the TheOddOne, so we'll see if TSM can hold their own in these other lanes.
Yeah, there's a fair bit of progress being made on that top lane. Along the bottom side, it is not necessarily going as well.
No, they haven't done too much. It's really all lopsided now.
Very lopsided over in the bottom side, so it may actually be XDG that ends up getting this turret sooner. Farm-wise as well, Xmithie's Jinx is ahead of WildTurtle. So far, these little lane swaps that XDG has pulled off are actually in their advantage. Caitlyn is supposed to beat up on Jinx a bit in lane, so therefore XDG does the lane swap, which is supposed to be punished by TSM being able to take the turret early. But they're not necessarily going for that. They're playing a very conservative bottom lane game with Caitlyn and Leona down there.
A super share system and experience between those two in the top lane. And this kind of gives Zuna, as you said, it was a bad matchup, a little bit safer of a jungle. He always has eyes on TheOddOne now, and he can kind of roam where he wants.
Yeah, and also think of the bottom lane in this manner, that Benny can taunt Xpecial into the turret, therefore Xpecial cannot assist with turret damage. Whereas when Bloodwater is up there in a 3v2, like he was with Zuna, he has a basically ranged auto attack with Thresh and can take that turret down faster.
manCloud getting hit up pretty hard. The key strike went in as well. The ignite is just to push out a lane. It won't be a full kill, and he gives it back. There's good damage there.
Yeah, nice retaliation there by manCloud, because he got the ignite out of Bjergsen, got damage back, and didn't have to burn his flash or his barrier. He is down a little bit in farm, but that was actually a lost trade from Bjergsen, if you think of it in terms of summoner spells.
We'll have to see what manCloud can come back with and how that affects Bjergsen staying in lane. We see Zuna finally putting a little bit of attention down towards the bottom lane, as that's still being won, but the gap is being closed in Xmithie and WildTurtle CS.
Yeah, it's really all about these turrets going down early as well. The CS is starting to even out between those AD carries. That's a slight advantage to XDG. And there's that taunt, actually, as he's trying to defend that turret. That's the reason that bottom turret is being held so well.
A little bit different. We have seen this before, obviously, but the 2v1s have usually been a push to the second-tier turret. This time, the junglers are actually going to assist and stop that from happening.
Yeah, these are the slow 2v1s, where they're really just about 80 carries getting a substantial amount of farm. You can kind of see how it is much higher in the mid lanes. Of course, Bjergsen is just keeping pace because he is beating up on manCloud a little bit. But generally, lanes like this lead to higher CS for the 80 carries. And very low farm for the side laners as well.
Something I was actually going to keep an eye on this matchup is whether Zuna really gives those camps to manCloud. Is he a jungler that allows that to happen? Because he's not giving him help in the mid lane, so is he able to take that at least?
Yeah, well, I think in a normal situation it might be, as Bjergsen continues to get aggressive on manCloud. manCloud's got to watch out for the burst there. Top turret goes down. But Zuna shouldn't give many camps to manCloud in this game because Nidalee can't take them super fast, and also because Kha'Zix needs the farm.
Looks like a 7-minute dragon coming in here. 13-14 is the time that TSM has on that, and they start to take a slight bit of lead. You see, it's not even really that much.
Yeah, but that's because they haven't taken the turret yet.
Absolutely.
So when they get that bottom turret, they're going to slingshot their way a little bit ahead in that race. I like how TSM waited until TheOddOne was level 5 to start taking that dragon. Much stronger, much better ability of taking it down quickly, and it made less of a counterattack possible from XDG. I saw it was the Fnatic Roccat game, a really great game we had over in Europe. Early on in the game, Roccat tried to take a dragon with like level 3 jungler and a level 2 Thresh, and they just took so much damage that even though they had like a 4v3 edge, Fnatic could push them off the dragon. That was not an opportunity for XDG there because TSM wasn't low.
XDG still trying to do what they can. We've seen kind of a mirror flop here. Now Zuna is on the bottom side helping out Benny with TheOddOne in the 3 position with WildTurtle and Xpecial. They get good damage on the turret, but it's not down just yet, and the lanes will be swapped back. So that may be cash stalled that TSM wanted to get kind of quick.
This is a curious playstyle by TSM. I expected, especially with the Caitlyn, that they would be trying to push the lanes much more aggressively. They're down in turrets. Dyrus seems fairly content freezing, and WildTurtle and Xpecial have just been rotated on and are now in a straight-up 2v2 against Jinx. Jinx and Thresh. They're playing it slow with something that I think they could take some more aggression with. I think they're just playing it safe more than anything.
Well, coming back to lane, the 80 carries are pretty much even. CS is very close, and the items are pretty much with the same impact of damage. 9 minutes into this one, we'll see now what kind of the jungler's impact has on the 2v2 lanes.
Yeah, we've seen very little jungle impact. That tends to happen when you get into a lane push game like this, where the junglers are showing a lot in the lanes because it just means that the ganks can't be sneaky. That theoretically would favor Zuna. He's out farming TheOddOne a little bit, but you can see he's just kind of low in health, hasn't been able to get his damage yet. He's gank relied. Zuna should have to go gank soon. You can see he's evolved his wings so he can jump very far on Kha'Zix and should use that to get ganks. But he's got to go all the way back to base, get some health back, then he can come and go for a gank. It's a very slow process.
Yeah, he's playing pretty dangerous in that jungle right now with low HP. Looking around at the items, Benny just trying to get healthy to stay strong in that top lane. Bjergsen hiding off in the wings.
He was hoping to catch Zuna, actually.
Yep.
Yeah. He realized Kha'Zix would be a little bit low in the jungle and was hoping he was trying a foolish gank. No dice, though.
Well, TSM with that dragon have actually been able to place a pink ward. They did have a deep blue ward that actually just went away. So their coverage is on the up and up right now, and it's allowing them to somewhat take control of this early game, but they haven't shown anything too strong just yet.
I'd say TSM has a very slight edge right here, an advantage of control, really. Knowing that they're winning the mid lane also gives them a fair amount of flexibility. Bjergsen should be able to transition into something fairly devastating soon. He's just got to get a little bit more farm. He's the one taking Wraiths. Riven can take Wraiths much easier than manCloud's Nidalee can. Also, TheOddOne is completely fine giving those Wraiths away on Elise.
Both junglers pretty quiet. waiting for their buffs to respawn so they have a little bit more edge when they come to these lanes. Bjergsen has kind of slowed down on harassing on down on manCloud. Can heal himself up now in that lane. It's a little bit slower. We can see Zuna making the pass by just to make sure that there's no damage.
Yeah, there's very little action going on so far in this game, Riven. It's just an interesting choice by TSM. I was definitely expecting more aggression early from both of these squads. XDG actually used to thrive off of Xmithie's jungle pressure in the early game. You would see manCloud generally pushing up the wave frequently and really creating a lot of pressure that way, and then Xmithie was always there to kind of respond with him. That's not happening right now. They just played a bit of a lane swap game, but they didn't even get turrets. So it's really just given us this very slow, non-eventful first 11.5 minutes of the game.
It's like you said, it starts with those jungle ganks coming in. Bjergsen hasn't gotten anything from TheOddOne to really get the game going. His roam isn't there yet. And 12 minutes into the game, we're still seeing a pretty standard laning phase. Even though the top turret is down, it wasn't a big push for XDG. They didn't go for second tier.
They stopped right there. The need for XDG was to actually prolong this laning phase rather than make it faster. They don't actually want an open map with a lot of roaming right now because they want Xmithie's Jinx to get farmed, they want manCloud's Nidalee to get some items, and they want Benny to reach a point where he can deal with Dyrus. I think all of those things are actually happening right now for XDG Rip.
And manCloud actually rushing the Morellonomicon in this lane.
That's an interesting choice right there on Nidalee. Most Nidalees you'd see would go with Thene's Unholy Grail to Death Cap, but that's against AP champions. He's against Bjergsen on Riven. Not any magic damage coming out from him. I think it's a bit of a rush to power as well. Just making sure to get the cooldown reduction right off the bat. And honestly, tier Morellonomicon Void Staff is one of the fastest ways to huge amounts of damage early on in the game, if manCloud decides to go that route.
We know manCloud as an impact player for XDG. We've yet to see it this season, though. We've talked a little bit about the synergy, but he can still show for himself. We'll have to see if he can do that. Seeing the turret go down in the bottom lane, TSM grabs about 1,000 gold lead as they tick up towards that 17K mark. manCloud and Bjergsen going at it.
Yeah, and we can actually see TSM preparing for some aggression right now. They kill the turret with a full 3-man rotation right there, and Bjergsen goes in for some harass because they want to think about securing this dragon. Now, the fear is that Benny would teleport down on Shen, so they either have to rotate Dyrus here quickly or have him up to interrupt Benny's teleport. It appears they're trying to roam him down, which would be daring XDG to throw a Shen ultimate and basically trying to create a fight here.
This would be a very interesting fight. If it happens, both AD carries are sitting on near 2,000 gold. So it'll be like they're shooting brick walls if these tanks are able to make it down to the fight. The Shen ultimate is up, but it looks like they should get it clean here.
Yeah, XDG doesn't want to mess with TSM. That's what it seems like. Maybe they're going to go in late, but this is just a foolish play.
The pink ward there's going to get Zuna, and he gets obliterated immediately. Bloodwater's there, and he throws the box down, forced to flash out for the summoner spell there, and it could be the TheOddOne coming up with another cocoon. The cooldown's still pretty high. Now it comes up. Spider form, execute. TheOddOne coming up with a kill.
A really bad rotation by XDG is the only words I have for that. Zuna went in alone when the dragon was dead, without follow-up from his team, and he got destroyed by TSM. Just look at this. The team is not in position. Jinx and Nidalee are way up top. They are easily just able to burst him down. He has no tank stats on Kha'Zix. It is killed before the Shen ult goes in, which makes it even more of a disaster. And then the team scatters. So it's a good play by TSM to capitalize on that, but a foolish play by XDG to be in that position in the first place.
It's a pretty big play for a lot of people on TSM as well. Bjergsen going pretty deep here.
Time to get a replay of that one pretty soon, I believe. Bjergsen tends to do that to people sometimes.
Gets you when you're not looking. So 2 assists. Actually, let's check that out. As he dives this. No, he's not even looking to dive it.
Well, he has his ultimate up.
Yeah, it's good behavior.
Yeah. He just straight up bursted him with damage.
Zuna did not have time to react to that situation. Yeah. He still has flash up, but I don't think he was going to try to flash after that. Wouldn't have had the kill. And as I was saying, those assists, go to WildTurtle from that fight. He was even with Xmithie before that. So right now, he's definitely building up a little bit more, and the lanes are starting to win. Just like Bjergsen said, it's what they needed to really take this game.
Yeah. Mid lane has control at this point. Blue buff on Riven is actually something Bjergsen is a huge fan of. It gives him many, many more shields, and he might actually look to roam fairly quickly, because manCloud You know, that's why the Nidalee pick is quite dangerous against Riven. Sure, he can keep his distance a little bit, but there's no fear for Bjergsen doing anything. Even if he didn't get the kill on that tower dive, Nidalee doesn't really trap anyone under the turret. He's not going to help Zuna come and get a gank secure.
Yeah.
The synergy is just not there.
We still didn't see, and Zuna went down very fast, it's kind of the point we're making, that Benny didn't come in quick enough on that fight. Wasn't really able to help too much. Everything was blown through right away.
Like,
so,
if they were going to plan an initiation, they should have led with the Shen ult.
Right.
Get him in there for an initiation taunt. You can't just have a Kha'Zix sitting in the middle of a team and expect that to be an initiation. He's not tanky enough to do that.
Especially not now that the Hydra is filled up and built up. And we see the Brutalizer and the Bloodthirster as well. So a lot of damage coming out from those two DPSers on Riven and Caitlyn. TSM is 4,000 gold in the lead. They're now looking to take a second turret, and Zuna, he has to go the long way around.
Yeah, and you can see Bjergsen now using that blue buff to try and split push, and TSM has rotated WildTurtle in the mid lane because Caitlyn, as a marksman, is the best at taking down the turrets. All is actually going as planned for TSM. They took a little longer to initiate this plan than I expected, but it's been in complete control. They have a big lead right now. And honestly, if Zuna's not careful and there isn't a second person coming over in Nidalee here, he would have just killed him there, which means now the TSM can push mid lane.
manCloud is somewhat there to help get that turret back to safety, and it looks like XDG is really on the defense right now. It's just Team Solomid knocking on the door, seeing where they can get through. Dyrus looking to create a little bit of a trouble in the top lane for XDG.
Yep.
Somebody's going to have to report to that.
Farming in between the turrets. Benny's going to be the one that deals with that, but that just kind of neutralizes both of them. At the moment, Dyrus is a little bit stronger when he rotates down for team fights. Yeah, and when Dyrus roams down for team fights, at least at this point in the game, he's going to have a larger impact on those fights.
Easily. Coming in with the Sunfire Cape, and then Dominus on. Just spin it around as the alligator does once it gets its prey in its mouth. 18 minutes on the game at 3-0. Team Solomid's looking to do a shutout on this one. Not letting anybody die, but they've been methodical kills. There's been no dives here coming in this game.
Yeah, and now they're just trying to move into XDG territory. They're threatening this blue buff. At the very least, they want it off in Nidalee. It ends up going to EpicSkillshot.
Wow, very nice job by the EpicSkillshot coming out with that smite. It looks like Bjergsen's going to have to stay safe and just cause a little more chaos. TSM's doing a very good job of always being somewhere XDG doesn't want them, just to make them react.
Yeah, and XDG doesn't really know what to do. This is kind of what WildTurtle talked about. And what we've been seeing from XDG in their lackluster start to this split, they don't seem to have a cohesive plan. I do want to talk a little bit about Bjergsen's item build, though, because a lot of Rivens, I know Faker does Bloodthirster a lot on Riven. That's more for the single target assassination in the mid lane. But when Bjergsen builds the Hydra in the side lane, it is for faster pushing. And I also think you get the same amount of burst out of it if you're using the active in between your Riven combos. I am a personal fan of the Hydra on Riven over the Bloodthirster, and that's what Bjergsen's went for.
Auto attack reset, always fun.
Always fun.
Always fun. More scene damage. You just get to hit it and activate it. Looking at these builds from the supports and a few of the trinkets as we kind of pan out to the side of the inventories, they've gotten this the Sightstone finished, now to the sweepers, but you can see TSM is all over the sweepers even though they're winning. They're denying.
Generally teams that are ahead will build more sweepers, especially against XDG where they can't really check in their own jungle. Zuna has not pulled off any ganks. He's been mirrored very well by TheOddOne. No strength so far in that jungle Kha'Zix, and there's no real way of initiating for XGG. Maybe Bloodwater could do another amazing flash flay like he did the other week, but there's another dragon up. It's not like XGG can do that. They're trying a desperate play actually here. They're trying to go over the wall and finish off this Baron. I think TSM can respond to it though.
There's a pink ward right under it. Zuna is taking way too much damage. There isn't a tank stat on Kha'Zix yet. He just finished the Lizard Elder. That is doing about 300 damage a shot, and they have to micro the damage in and out. TSM putting themselves, they have Bjergsen in the bottom lane. That is going down very slow though. Without seeing anything happening here, they're gonna have to be tipped off.
No, I mean they could check it out of curiosity right now, but it's gonna be close.
Oh god, this could be a situation that XDG did not want from the beginning. They go in. Oh my god, it's gonna go to Xmithie on the outside of the Baron pit. A kill coming in onto Zuna from the TheOddOne, but a huge play there from XDG.
They were able to get the Baron, but let's see how much it ends up costing them. That's already 2 turrets, and Bjergsen is still pushing before the recalls.
On a huge play, Jat, the enemy team is always going to adapt They've already taken a mid turret just before Baron went down, and TSM is still trying to wreak havoc on the base. manCloud harassing out Bjergsen, and the push is still happening in mid.
Yeah, what an interesting Baron call by XDG there. TSM thought they had pink ward control with that brush pink ward in the Baron River, but just because of the angles that XDG approached, having Thresh and Kha'Zix jump over the wall, it was a sneak Baron right there. It's actually a fairly low-risk play by XDG there until TSM decided to check because they killed it so slowly.
That was a pretty crazy attempt. The minion waves were just in the right spot, but now that TSM has recuperated, they are in position to pressure down these turrets. 4-1 now. That really didn't bring back the gold lead at all. We're still looking at 7,000 in the lead for TSM.
Yeah, but the Baron buff is worth a lot of gold as well. We'll see how aggressive TSM is in a potential initiation right here. If Renekton could get in clean, it would then allow Bjergsen's Riven to go and pull off some cleanup. But without that, TSM might actually just end up avoiding XGG with this Baron buff for a little while.
Everybody hanging around mid. It looks like TSM does have somewhat of a pinch strategy they could utilize here, but I don't think they're going to go in. The turret's the only thing they want to guard, and they may even have to give that one up. Bjergsen is still doing the split push strategy, whether he's on Zed or anybody else. He's going to be doing it.
Yeah, I think Bjergsen needs a last whisper before he could realistically split push strongly against Benny. Benny with the Sunfire Cape, Ninja Tabi, and the Cloth Armor is just 170 armor right now.
He's a big
little
boy.
bit too much for Bjergsen to cut through.
In that top lane, we said we were going to be watching Benny a little bit this week. The important matchup against Dyrus. And Dyrus usually has the over-average farm. It's 267 to 236 in an average game. So it's kind of looking like that at 177, 158.
Yeah, it's a little lower than you would normally expect from a Benny or a Dyrus, but that's because they were in the 1v2 lane for so long. It was an extended 1v2 laning phase. Bjergsen's also taken split push duties, which inflates his CS a little bit artificially. Still, 255 at 22 minutes is pretty good.
Definitely keeping him healthy. We saw a lot of guys have gold, sitting on over 1,000 gold maybe on Team Solomid. But now backing, you see Bjergsen spending $2 grand there, and he has that last whisper now.
He knows exactly what he needs to go and pull this one off. It's unfortunate for XGG that they've fallen so far behind that they're not actually able to do anything with this Baron buff. They got the gold value of the Baron, but outside of that, not much more. And unless they can make some type of kill advantage or take farm positioning on the map to either get their jungle back or farm waves, they're just going to continue to be far behind as soon as this buff expires.
And we got to say, Zuna's build still going for damage. They're still trying to zero out a WildTurtle. Bjergsen, he'll take that damage, but can they get in? Do they have enough time?
Yeah, this is definitely an extremely slow game right now. It's a little bit similar to the CLG curse game we saw, where CLG won in about 27 minutes but didn't get first blood until about 23. Obviously, first blood was a bit earlier in this game, but XGG is just not taking any risks outside of the one Baron when they need to, like very clearly. I think they're afraid of themselves right now. They might be afraid of getting yelled at by a teammate or something, because clearly what they're doing now is losing the game. So unless they make a risk, could be a low percentage play, they have no chance of winning.
It's almost like they took the legs out from under XDG and Champion Select. They banned out Zuna in the jungle, put him on a completely different jungler than he's played, and manCloud still isn't getting help from him even more now. So they're already on crutches from that point.
Yeah, and Bjergsen is looking to make an initiation. And XGG is just so scared. They have no tank line outside of Benny, who is on split push duty. So therefore, everything that TSM throws at them is potentially lethal.
Bjergsen going again to this top lane to keep that nuisance split push going on. You can see TSM feels confident, even in the builds. A Leandry's a second item for TheOddOne on Elise.
More aggressive Elise item there. Taking those 2 kills he got from the Dragon fight, turning it into some damage right here. It's because they have adequate tankiness on the rest of their team. Here's a fight.
There it is. Dyrus to the back line, throws down Dominus. A nice lantern to get out for Xmithie, but he's not turning around to DPS yet. He's effectively not doing any damage for the team, but none of them want to, and they back off.
Not really sure what the plan was on that fight, because Bloodwater used a flash flay, I believe. I think they were trying to catch Bjergsen on the side of the fight. It did not work, and it didn't really give much to either team. So TSM will continue to have their edge after this one. They will continue to farm up. They're actually just sitting around until the next dragon comes up. And the Baron sneak by XDG pays no real dividends. They're still down a huge percentage of gold and cannot get back control of this dragon.
TSM took that lead and ran with it right away. Thought we were going to see a lot of aggression coming from WildTurtle and Xpecial in that bottom lane, but the 2v1 kind of slowed things down in the beginning for us, as TheOddOne really starting to make plays for everyone in that one dragon fight that we saw XDG kind of face check after. Really started to tumble things.
Yeah, and at that point, XDG just lost all of their confidence. They made one bad play, and they said, all right, let's just not try anything else. Bad idea. You got to keep trying things.
It's almost like what we heard Curse say when they were playing CLG in that game. Can we do this? Everybody says no. Can we do this? Everybody says no. And once you get quiet, that becomes scary.
Yeah, I mean, look at Bloodwater. He is completely, he's always stoic, but he's sometimes talking. manCloud not saying any words. Really, no one on XGG is communicating with themselves, each other right now.
Well, 27 minutes, it's definitely weighing on them right now, and TSM is forcing this lead quite hard. It's not like they're giving XDG time to breathe, and when you have to think, we can't get to this, we can't get to this, like you said, that's when you need to take those chances. Nothing's been working out. TSM
is conservatively forcing, I'd have to say. They're setting up a split push, but they're not really doing tower dives. They're just taking the farm advantages as they respawn. They're taking the red buff, the blue buff, the dragons. When the Baron respawns, they are going to try and pressure that as well, since they won't be surprised a second time by XDG.
Well, there isn't a whole heck of a lot of magic resistance coming out for TSM. So if manCloud can get some of these spears to land now, he has that Rabadon's death cap, maybe they can push them off at least the base turrets, because these outer turrets are not protectable right now.
Now this game, ooh.
A little back and forth.
A little bit missed right there.
Like Benny, kind of able to hold his own. You don't see too much damage on the turret yet from Bjergsen, but he is still putting that harass out, making sure Benny's locked down. And with him, even Dyrus there, it's better for Bjergsen, but they can stun up that Stand United easy.
Yeah. This is not going well, to say the least, for XDG.
Good dodge.
TSM will be pretty happy to take this win in the way they're doing it. I mean, nothing has really went wrong for TSM. It hasn't been as clean as it could have been. But everything else has worked well. They're walking into a trap right here. It's XDG.
I like the lantern.
It's good to see things.
Played.
Yeah.
They don't have any coverage. This is what TSM has been doing with those sweepers, pretty much denying everything.
Spiderlings are tanking the Baron for the most part.
A little bit of Leona passive.
Goes down fast. Look at that. I mean, this is just TSM walking all over XDG.
Yep. Taking down the Baron. Would you get like 400 relic gold for that if it came off? Looks like Team Solomid's going to be moving towards the base. This is going to be tough for XDG now. Everybody holding their breath. This could be the last fight if Team Solomid gets the right one under the turret.
Yeah, they just got to wait for Xpecial's Leona ult to come up. They have a lot of items. They might want to shop and get some more. There's no reason for TSM to have to rush anything because they're not afraid of XDG.
Slowly pushing them back. You can see they're even sitting on thousands of gold right now. Except for TheOddOne. He's 2-0-1. He makes sure he goes back and buys when he has it. Zuna taking so much damage right now. Still doesn't have any defensive stats to be going into this game. Ace in the hole goes onto the side of Zuna. He's down to 210 HP. The turret is even lower and crushed to the ground, and the inhibitor is going to follow after as Team Solomid just completely dictating the pace of this game.
Yeah, there's trying to be a split push right now by Benny, but is giving TSM the inhibitor turrets at this point. Dyrus takes a few hits from this one. They're probably going to go back at the wave to that turret and maybe end this game before 35 minutes.
One for the other Jap, but that gives TSM too much control in the base, like you said. Already see a bit of damage onto this inhibitor turret. Zuna looking like he could jump over the wall here and get the pick that they're looking for, but it'll be an interesting fight.
I hope so. I hope it'll be an interesting fight. They got another minion wave here. Xmithie's trying to clear that wave. Jinx does it fairly well, but this is limited wave clear from XDG.
So much gold in favor of Team Solomid. 7-2 in turrets means they can go wherever they want on the map after this, and they are not even giving up. There's the spears that manCloud needs to hit right now, but it's too few between. He needs to hit all of them from here on out.
He'd have to hit a lot more at this point. He has some items, but there's Baron regen on TSM right now.
They're looking to have that for another 2 minutes, it looks like. Benny taking actually quite a bit of damage from Turtle. They get a great
here it
hook.
is.
This is their chance. Zuna goes right over Turtle and doesn't even try to hit him. And they're going to keep going on the inhibitor turret. Bjergsen in the back line. He gets a 3-stun on the key strike. And they're going to keep going. Bloodwater ice to the hole goes down. And they're just going to waltz around the base.
Clean fight there, 3 for 0 for TSM. Super minions are in the mid lane. There's still some carries up for XDG, but I think this is the game, Rip.
They're going for the Nexus turrets, chat. 7-0. It was the shutout Xpecial with the Morello Namakan on, but he doesn't need any heals. He doesn't need any more HP. The Nexus is going down, and TSM is going to be looking for the win.
Bjergsen does go down to prevent the flawless victory right there, but the rest of TSM takes a clean victory right there. TSM chance, that was probably the most convincing victory TSM could hope for.
Yep.
But that's a pretty dreadful loss for XDG to take as well.
A really great picks and bans for Team Solomid.
Yep.
They got Zuna off of